Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Jozeppi Angelo Morelli is a trans queer man, a retired law enforcement officer, and a 9/11 World Trade Center first responder. He found a second career as activist, author, educator, and public speaker. His book, Authentic Selves, Celebrating Trans and Non-Binary People and Their Families, won the International Impact Book Award of the Year for inspiration. So without further ado, I am so excited to have Joey here today. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here too, Jenny.
So, audience, we got to meet at the International Impact Book Awards in Arizona. Before we go any further, I would love for you to just see this amazing book that Joey co-wrote. Will you show them the book? So if you are not on YouTube, I'm sorry, you'll have to go to YouTube. It's the Authentic Selves book. Would you tell us a little bit about what this book is about, Joey?
Authentic Selves is about celebrating trans and non-binary people and their families, whether it be bio families or chosen families. And folks were interviewed from all over the country. And it was important there was a diverse group represented in the book because we are a diverse community. And so we have different age, different race, different culture, different religion. And so everybody here represents some type of gender non-conforming person, human in this world, even two-spirited folks up on the Flathead Reservation in Montana. So we were trying to show, although we may have the similar identities, we all have different journeys and what impacts those journeys.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely description of this book. I mean, I am a parent of two lovely souls in this very same community you speak of, and they've both been on my podcast.
Nice.
Would you explain for our audience how important it is to have family support?
No, it statistically it shows if you have one supportive person in your life, you will have tremendous success. There's so many people in our community, and I, transitioned later in life, and so I'm 57, and I did not have my family support, and it wasn't until, and my mother refused to call me by anything but my birth name. Many people call that the dead name. I don't say that. I say birth name. For spiritual reasons. Yeah. But she refused, even though I had several conversations with her, she refused to call me by my Joey. And that's who I am. And so it wasn't until she was on her deathbed did she come to that place of calling me Joey. Those were her last words. She popped up out of her bed and said, "Hey, Joey." Never spoke another word. That was a Saturday night. She passed on Monday morning. She gave me that gift. And I have to say, even at my age, it was hard not to have family support. And since my mother's died, I have lost my siblings. I've lost half my family. And it's difficult. And so it is so important. I always, I've raised children myself. I've co-parented children myself. And I always wanted to make sure they knew no matter what they did, I still love them. And that's the important piece is even if you don't understand as your child is journeying into that gender non-conforming person, the only thing they need for them to know is that you love them in that moment when they have invited you in and have told you, this is who I think I am. or this is who I am, and I'm exploring. All you have to do is say, I love you, and I'm here no matter what, because that really helps the journey, because it is a journey. And it's not an easy one. And by the time a child or someone else invites you into their world, they've gone through already such a soul journey that it's a relief. It's a release when they're open their mouth and say, this is who I am. My parents, telling your parents, your guardians, whoever it is, this is who I am. It's such a release to finally be able to say, this is me.
Yes, yes. I really want to stop for a moment and just address one thing you said before I address the other things you said. As a parent, I used to belong to a Facebook group where the parents were very much, they were very much mourning the loss of a child. They treated it as if their child had died.
Mm.
I got really angry. My child transformed. I did not lose a child. I have witnessed parents losing, like literally, their child does not exist on this plane anymore.
Right.
And I get really emotional about it because I'm so lucky my children are alive. They've
Yes.
just transformed into another way of being, and I
Right.
celebrate them being alive. So I do love the delineation that you said about their birth name versus their dead name. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because for me, they're like a butterfly that came out of their
Yes.
chrysalis, and a butterfly is called a butterfly. And before that, it was called a chrysalis, and they were caterpillar. So of course, they get different names, right? And that's
Right.
just that transition. And so for me, it's just a life journey that I was lucky enough to have been picked before they were born to be a part of. Like that's a whole nother thing. So there you
Right.
go.
Right.
Sorry, audience. That's some Jenny's real talk. I'm a mama bear when it comes to my kids, and I literally, this is my podcast. This is my opinion, and I call the shots here. Sorry, folks.
No, so true. So true.
Right, right. And the biggest thing is the stats are there. If you don't have any support as a child to begin with, no matter what,
Yes.
your chances of making it through to adulthood are very slim. And if you're
Yes.
going through this life transition, nobody picks it, folks.
No.
Nobody picks this hard life. It's
No.
similar to being born Asian or being born with being on the spectrum. We didn't elect to do that.
Right.
I would love to, this sounds silly, even though I'm very proud being Asian, but I would have loved to be white here in the States. I would have like, this is great. I look like Farrah Fawcett because, I'm 55. So, you and I, we knew about Farrah Fawcett back then.
Yes.
I'd be like, I'm Farrah Fawcett with blue eyes. I don't have to wear contacts. That'd be so awesome, right? It's the same type of delineation. No one picks to have their life difficult. We want easy lives. That's what we're designed for.
Yes. So true. So true. And I think that and it's okay for me. What's important is people to understand, especially as parents, grandparents, whoever may be the guardian, siblings of the person who invited you in, the gender nonconforming person who invited you in. You have your own process, and you need to do that process alone. You can't put it on the gender nonconforming person. And so it needs to be separate. You need to deal with this journey because you have your own journey too in this equation, in this new life that this person is having. But you have to, it's a must that you do it separate
I
because
love
they've
that.
already been
Yeah.
doing we've already been doing our journey. So by the time we got to the point of inviting you in, we have been through pain and suffering and tears and trying to figure out, okay, am I ready to lose everything? Because that's the question you ask yourself.
You gave me the chills there, right, Joey?
And
Yeah.
that's the question you ask. And so that's why I say parents pause. I know it may be a shock. most parents know that there's something happening with their child. So, but it may be a shock, but take that. It's okay to go in your room and be upset, or talk to your friends and be upset, but you do that separate. That should never go to the person who just invited you into their life.
Yes. 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 That is a moment. The school is when someone shares with you, similar to my conversations with my children when they opened up,
Right.
right? That's the moment to show full on acceptance. You'll
Yes.
work out the details later, folks.
Yes.
Because what
Yes.
happens, right, is we choose to come from a place of hurt.
Yes.
It will cause damage to your relationship, folks. It
Yeah.
makes it very hard for that person to trust you again,
Right.
right? And they're
Right.
looking for safety. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
Safety is number one. Otherwise, we get labeled as part of the trauma.
Yes. Yes.
Great talk,
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I don't want to be part of the trauma. I'm like already responsible for other trauma because I was a first time parent with twins, right? I don't want to be a part because I remember when we first moved to the States and I had a conversation with my son and the conversation because I was in the middle of breast cancer treatment
Okay.
and I was concerned that that was a response to my breast cancer, right? And it wasn't an angry, it was just hear mommy out.
Yeah.
I will absolutely support you in your use of pronouns. I just wanted to explore this because this is my job. I have to ask these questions.
Right.
Is this in correlation to my breast cancer? And
Right.
there was a slight pause. And the answer was, of course, I'm afraid I'm going to get breast cancer. Men get it too. That
Yeah.
was one. And two, it was not related to this topic. It's a separate fear,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And what we ended up working out was because we had just moved to Utah. So we were kind of lucky, even though I was going through breast cancer, right? Yeah. And there was a traumatic move across the country. We were able to immediately respect Daniel's choice,
Mm-hmm.
go by the pronouns, and then I only asked for a grace period of addressing the people we had left,
Wow. Yeah.
and it wasn't an announcement. We just like slowly shifted. And
Right.
there was never, ever for me and my husband any doubt if there was ever a choice, right? We would not stand in the corner of our children.
Right.
I never had a straight answer question with my parents, just so you know. We just
Right.
slowly transitioned Daniel. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they had a grandson.
Right.
Because my thing was, because my kids would ask me, Joey, what if they don't accept us? And my answer was, I guess they're not going to have grandkids.
Yeah. Right. That's what.
Right?
Right.
It was,
Right.
I wasn't going to be, and it's okay, audience, if you are in a place where you're not feeling strong enough to do that. I get
Right.
it. For
Right.
me, I had my kids through in vitro fertilization. They
Right.
were my IVF miracles. They were always the top of the totem pole. Some people don't even necessarily have that option, and that's
Right.
okay, right? Just be
Absolutely.
really, really try the best you can to be a safe spot, correct?
Right. Correct. Totally correct on that, because that happens so many different spaces, and I think it is important, especially not asking the child to dress any different or be any different. Just be you, and eventually, whoever's gonna be part of your life will be part of your life, and that's part of it. And I always say that you don't have to be an activist. You don't have to be doing anything except being you, because that is an act of resistance, and that's saying to the world, this is who I am and I love myself. And that's an act of resistance. And you don't have to do anything else if you don't want to. And so show up every day as you. And
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. What are some suggestions we could help the audience with who think they might belong in this community and they don't have a safe way of exploring, because the reality is I live in Utah, right? If you
Right.
were to even bring it up, there would be immediate ramifications.
Right.
How does one explore that if you think you might suspect it?
Well, the main thing is because there's so much social media now and so much different situations online, I would go to an online option and look to see, because there's so many different places that you can go and listen and go and get support online. On Instagram, you find a queer, especially for the young folks, the queer ensemble group is run by folks that are 25 and under, and they're doing all kind of activism across this country, but they also offer support. They also offer forms online to say, this is how you tell your teacher. This is how you tell your parents. This is how you find this. This is how you find. There's so much resources for the younger folks. Certainly the Trevor Project is out there. Certainly the Human Rights Campaign. But there's also groups, PFLAG, if you could locate your local PFLAG, or your local Unitarian Universalist church. That's who Skinner House Press published this book, who are owned by the Unitarian Universalists. So that's a safe space. Those are the things you want to look at. And if you want to just keep quiet and look at it online first, and then explore, and they may be able to steer you to your local folks. This is because they've been dealing with folks all over the country. And so they'd be able to tell you that. Yeah, I would definitely look online to see, trans, non-binary organizations that are, giving resources and giving support. And, there's always, I think the younger folks certainly talk to their friends. When we were at the International Impact Book Award, it was interesting. Some of the folks said to me, my kids have trans and non-binary friends, and they act like it's normal. I said, it is normal.
It is normal.
If they don't get upset about it, they're just, oh, my friend's a gay, or my friend's trans, or they said there's no problem. And I agree with that. 35 and under, there's no issue. All you have to do is tell them once and they get it, but for some reason, us folks over a certain age, we're having difficulty with it.
Here's the thing. It's because, right, we for safety, we blended in. I had this weird hair sticking out. Joey, what is this? So like for me, because I came to this country at 6 and had to learn the rules so I wouldn't be teased and bullied. Right? And that doesn't matter whether or not you immigrated to this country.
Right.
You learn rules in school before a certain, what is it? Right. I was born in 68, so I came to this country in my 70s, right? So before 2000, like generation, what generation are we? X?
Yeah. We're
Gen X, right? Right? Yeah. And there's all these TikTok videos about how we raised ourselves and we drank out of water, like hoses, and we came in when the lights came out on the street.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And we had to tie our own shoes and all this other stuff. There's a proponent of this generation that we came from that found safety in the rules of no rules. Right? And so then the rules of no rules were really still rules, honestly. And so they don't want to break out of that, because then we have to then really look at our lives.
Right.
And we don't want to do that because we have to raise ourselves. And how dare you? Sorry. I think that's a lot of that plays into it. And then there's also the generation after us.
Yes.
Right? They have a hard time too, because you and I, we're in our 50s. So like the kids in their 40s, right after 30s, right? They're having a hard time. And then older than us, even harder time. Right.
Well, and I think, and it's also, when I can explain, especially to an older generation, of what especially non-binary folks are about, and I often say that they are breaking the binary. We all grew up in white supremacy culture and in the binary, and they're trying to deconstruct that. Men shouldn't have to be doing this. Women shouldn't have to be doing that. That's what they're trying to show folks is that we have been in such a construct, a social construct of what gender is, what sexual orientation is, and they're trying to open that whole, dissolve that whole image of what when you grew up, if in our era, you were expect to get married and have kids and do this as a woman. You got to cook, you got to clean, and the men went out to work. Well, that doesn't fly anymore,
Right.
You
Right.
know, that's a
And
different,
yes. And for
yeah.
anyone who's if you're getting angry about what we're saying, take a breath for a second right now. And I'm gonna ask you, did you enjoy the show Victor Victoria?
Right, right.
Did you like Mrs. Doubtfire? Was that not freaking funny?
That was great.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
And how those shows gave us permission to break out of the binary we
Yes.
grew up in. And there's a
Yes.
real reason why they were so popular.
Mm.
Folks,
Yeah.
if we break out the binary, we're really more free, even if it's
Yes.
scary.
Yes. Yes.
And again, anyone listening to this, if this is really making you uncomfortable, I always bring people on so that we can just present things for you to be exposed to. If it doesn't serve you, then let it go. Come back for the next episode, even though you've been missing a really good conversation, but that's on you. Right? Because Joey's really cool. And that's why I was so excited that Joey was willing to come on this podcast. We wanted to talk about a hard thing because sometimes people aren't comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, part of why I've always been the type of parent I've been is because when my husband had testicular cancer and then we had to go through in vitro fertilization to have our kids, it became this life purpose for me to be a mom first above all else. Part of my platform is to don't become a role model where my kids end up sacrificing themselves on the relationship and parenting altar either, right? Because I
Right.
want a role model for my kids to be their own people.
Right.
And this is why we're here. We want to
Right.
have conversations.
Right.
I still have conversations with my kids where I struggle with understanding because I grew up in the binary,
Right.
right? And I tell them, Mom's learning. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying really hard. Today's a really hard day to accept and understand why you're
Right.
choosing to do this. But let's keep conversing about it. And then they'll be like, well, this is this. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, well, give me give me a little bit to figure out how that fits into me. And then I'll tell you though, folks, like in public, it don't matter what my kids do. They have my full support.
Right.
And that's, I think, what any child wants, no matter how old you are, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think too, it's we should be able to have conversations with each other and have a difference of opinion
Yes,
without it going to the place of hate
exactly.
and negativity and the language that's been used against our community, especially this year.
Oh, it's so sad. It
It's
it,
been
it it's
horrendous.
heartbreaking, right? And
Yeah.
so, audience, I depending on wherever your reaction to this conversation is, I want to stop for a moment and I want you to take a breath in for me. And I want you to tune into your five senses: smell, taste. I always have my Earl Grey tea. Think about your favorite smell and taste. Feel your butt cheeks in the seat if you're listening, your feet on the floor. Open up your peripheral vision, meaning start seeing everything to the side of you without your eyeballs turning to the side. Eyes softly focused. And then feel feel your clothing on your body. Besides mine and Joey's voice, hear everything that's in the room with you. Take a breath in and exhale. Right? Because I want you to feel safe in this type of conversation. Wherever you are on this conversation stance. Right? Because what happens is when we start to get emotional about it, we stop listening. And you're just feeling, and there's nothing wrong with feeling. We want to explain to you how hard it is to not feel safe, even or protected, right? Even by the government.
Right.
It's devastating, right?
Yeah, well, we have 510 anti-LGBTQ bills out across this country. Only 19 states that we're transgender, gender nonconforming folks are safe in. And so I think as a, retired law enforcement officer from New York City, 9/11 World Trade Center first responder,
Mhm.
um, I, was showed up for my country. And I have to start thinking about, where am I going to live?
Yeah,
Where am I going to not just survive, but thrive in this country?
yeah. That's
And
your
the,
that's your sovereign right
yes.
to
And so,
thrive.
yes. And so that's what's happening. And the amount of hate language, and especially in the face of religion, it's been
Yes,
hard. It's been
that's been
very
real.
difficult.
Yes, yes. And I'm so glad you do have a base now where you were situated. You know,
Yes.
um, my son is a ballet major at the U of U, and there are
Uh-uh.
programs he would have gone to, but they were in the deep south,
Yeah.
and I had to be like, no,
Yeah.
'cause unless I can hire you a private bodyguard, right? And I mean, I have friends say to me, "Oh no, it's safe where we live." I'm like, yes, and it's not safe between the major airport and where you are.
Right.
Oh, it's just an hour drive. And my answer is, what if my child has to stop and go to the gas station? He has type 1 diabetes. What if he hits a low in the car? That's the stuff that we have to deal with, you know,
Yes.
right? But during the pandemic, I always wore sunglasses. I mean, I look really Asian. You can't get away from it. But the
Yes.
rise in anti-Asian hate,
Yes.
I
Yes.
had to take the means to be safe and not
Right.
invite unsafety. And
Right.
so I want people just to understand this is not a life someone chooses where you always have to be one step ahead.
Yes. I mean, I travel across this country promoting both the book, and there's a photo exhibit that goes with it as well. And we have 4 copies right now traveling across the country. But I travel, I show up in person to some of the events across the country. And a lot of times I drive. And so I have to think about what you're just saying about when I have to go to use the restroom. I have to be really mindful where I am, you know?
Yes.
So that is what, and so many people comment about transgender men having facial hair and beards. I said, this is for safety.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's what people need to understand.
It's
Everything we do, we think about safety.
you have to be 4 steps ahead.
Yes.
You have to be
So,
4 steps ahead.
yeah.
We all have to be 4 steps ahead. Here we just had the bathroom law get passed in Utah, right? And so let's be clear. My daughter, since she's been a little girl, realized that the clothing for girls was restrictive and too sexualized and refuses to wear female oriented clothing,
Right.
right? She's like, why do I need to? No, it's less comfortable. Why does it have to be tight?
Yeah.
She's always been in the men's section, the boys section shorts. They're much more comfortable. The teachers are more comfortable for her.
Yeah.
And since we moved here, she's always gotten strange looks in the bathroom,
Yeah.
right? And we've had to problem solve conversations
Right.
where if someone gives us a dirty look, right, she can start screeching, start looking at me.
Yeah.
My mom has breast cancer. Why are
Right.
you looking at me? Like, we just
Right.
gave her, we had to come up with all of these
Yes.
scripts for her just in case someone gives her a hard time.
Right. No, it's so true. I've I've been there. I've been there. You know.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And it's been very interesting because not for nothing, folks, if you are very bigoted against people in this community, your kids have picked it up and they're the ones giving our children dirty looks in the bathroom, just so you know. It's not just you. Your kids are doing it.
Yes. Yes.
And um yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's we're not born with hate in our heart. We
We're
learn
not.
that at home. We learn that at home, and in church, of who to discriminate against, who not to like, who's this, who's that, and we need to understand that it's happening. I did a school in Arlington, Virginia. I went there because there was a bullying situation happening there, and it was right after next Benedict
Yes.
passed away, right? And so the day I did my keynote at the school, the Washington Post had a big article on the FBI tracking the escalation of violence in our schools around LGBTQ kids. And it was 2-page article. That's how important it was for them to put this out. And the statistics were astronomical of what's happening. Went up 40% this year in bullying and violence in school for LGBTQ kids. So that's young folks doing it to their classmates. So, so and we saw that with Next Benedict, certainly, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right.
And all we're asking for you to consider, audience, if you're on the other side of it and you just don't understand why, I've heard people referring this community my children are part of has like the ABC community, right? And my thing is, everyone has a right to find joy in who they are. And if you're getting a physical response to me saying that, you need to work with me. Give me a call. Look up danceandheal.com, take a class with me, and book a call with me. Because these people who choose the hard path in their lives, they're having an incredible journey in front of them. And if you're upset about that, I really want to help you get through this because it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear that, audience? It has nothing to do with you. Really,
Right.
truly, really, truly, because no one does that to hurt other people.
Mhm.
Really, truly.
So
It
true.
may feel like that, even though, and then that's another thing that in therapy, that's called projection. No one's trying to make it hard for you. If you're feeling like it's hard for you, then there's other things in your lives that I really want to help you with. So go to danceandheal.com, do my dance class, right? And you'll see, I'm not judging you for that. I'm just concerned. I'm
Yes.
concerned that someone who would choose the hardest path in their lives and risk losing family members and a support community, that would make you mad or anyone mad. I'm very worried. I'm
Yes.
very worried for that person. That's my biggest thing. That's my reaction these days, you know? I'm gonna take a breath. And now, here's the thing, Joey. You're doing some amazing things. Will you tell my audience the offerings? We're doing this recording now, so it will launch, I think, about a month before some of your August events.
Yeah, in August they have the Atlanta Comfort Conference in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yes.
um, from August 14th through the 18th. You can look up online. And there'll be a lineup of speakers there, also doctors, speakers, and there'll be a group of us from Authentic Selves there. We have about 10 co-authors that live in the Atlanta area. And so some of them will be there doing a panel with me, and we'll be selling certainly the books there. But this is the time for the community to come together, especially folks who are new to the community, and they do, they have the workshops during the day, but at night they're doing different adventures. They're doing it, you get to go see a drag queen show if you want to, a place called Lips. You get to, go to another show if you want to. And they also have at this conference for folks who are just, coming out. What is dressing? What does that look like, especially for our trans women? How to do your makeup, how to do your hair, things like that you may need assistance with, that you're just starting out, the clothes, what looks good on you, and I think that's really important part of the conference too, is to have that experience with other gender non-conforming folks coming together and talking to each other and our allies. And so it's important. It's an important conference, and Atlanta is, for our community, every year we have several violence that happens to our community. There are several deaths there, especially for our Black trans women. And so it's important to gather there and show we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're here.
Yes, there is strength in community.
Yes.
What is that website again, Joey?
It's the Atlanta Comfort Conference. And I'll share that.
COMFORT. Okay, the Atlanta Comfort Conference. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then how can they get in touch with you, Joey?
You can find me either on Instagram, which is Flower Rock 57, or you could get me on my email. And so if you want to put the email in the chat, it's
we'll put that in the descriptor. Yes.
Yes, CERVJMOR@gmail.com. Beautiful. And just say you heard me on Jenny, and I'll know where you heard me from. So yeah, where you caught my conversation. You can reach out, and I'm always willing to help whatever I could do. I think that's important. I travel all over this country, not for fame or fortune. I do it because my life and my siblings' lives depend upon it. And I never want any of my siblings to feel alone, or the parents, or the guardians, whoever they may be. Because that's important. Right now, we're in such a interesting time that it's important nobody feels alone. And so that's the great part of coming on this podcast and building a bigger community. Because that's what's important, is when we network together, when we connect together, there's an energy that goes with that. And so, and it builds community, and it ripples out there and saying, okay, now I have my friend in Utah and you have your friend in Arizona. So
right. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Absolutely. Joey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Audience, we may have to have Joey back. So for this particular episode, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll come back to answer them. Joey, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. You're wonderful. Thank you for all that you do in the community. And I hope to see you again.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit OutsideInRecovery.com. Are you ready to move?